Good evening and welcome to our virtual edition of Community Conversation. Last time we did one of these, we were in person, or we've done several in person, and that gave us more of an opportunity to interact, but wanted to definitely start reconnecting again and providing information and updates through this forum. So I am your mayor, Dina Holiday Ingram, and I am excited about this opportunity to share with you on this evening, and look forward to hearing from you as we move forward through this community conversation. And so I want to say that tonight we're going to cover a couple topics. So I prepared some information, but also there's an opportunity for you to share some thoughts. If you're joining me through Zoom, of course, you can do that either in the chat or in the Q&A section. And then if you're watching the live stream and the feed, we'll try to check over there as well. But definitely excited about our time together tonight. And Randy Beavers with the Cultural Labs is going to be joining us later to share with us information about the Eastpoint Exchange, which is an awesome development that they're working on that will be behind the MARTA station in downtown Eastpoint. So it is a around 21-acre site that the development is going on, and he is going to share with us the exciting opportunities that will be in that space. And so I'm excited that he'll be joining us, and that'll be towards the end. And then when we get there, after we've shared some information, we'll also get into answering questions. Thank you to those who sent me some questions and topics. I am going to try to address them as I'm speaking tonight and going over some information. I have them printed right here. And so if I don't get to them during the discussion or during the presentation, feel free to ask me questions about those as well. And so we are going to now go into a brief presentation before bringing Randy on, but wanted to start with just some general information and then go into more information about how you engage. And so I've heard quite a few residents, a number of residents actually, who want to engage, who want to connect, and want to know what that process is. And so I'm going to actually try to share my screen and go through some of those with you, just in the event that you're not aware of the different platforms that are available to actually connect with us. So I want to make sure that we, since we have the opportunity of the virtual space, that I'm actually using it to share that information with you. And so I'm I need to make sure I mute everyone so that we don't get any feedback. So without further ado, start off. So I indicated that the presentation would include information about safety, development, and more. The more comes from you, as well as the questions that I've received or things that I've seen people having questions about. So I like to start with this general overview of the City of Eastpoint government structure and what that looks like. And the key thing that you'll notice from this diagram is that the citizens of Eastpoint are at the top. The citizens of Eastpoint elect the mayor and council, who then select the city manager, and the city manager then hires everyone except the direct reports that I'll go over with you in a minute. So this is the organizational chart and all of the departments that report to the city manager, and basically outside of the city attorney's office, the city clerk's office, and the municipal court judge, everyone, all of the departments within the city are under the city manager's purview and supervision. We also have a deputy city manager as well. And so you'll see the different departments and which ones report directly to the deputy city manager, who then reports to the city manager, and those that the city manager oversees himself directly. And then the council direct report. So I mentioned the city manager, who is hired by mayor and council, and he oversees the overall operations and staff, except the city clerk, city attorney, and municipal court judge. The city clerk then supervises our deputy city clerk, office manager, and administrative clerk. And then we also have a city attorney that is a direct report, meaning selected by mayor and council members. And he supervises the deputy city attorney and paralegal. And then the last direct report to mayor and council is the municipal court judge. How to access information. This is critically important. There are a lot of people who I feel like want to be informed, empowered, engaged with information for themselves. And so there's different ways to access information from the city. In addition to, of course, calling mayor and council members or emailing. The Eastpoint Charter and ordinances are online. If you Google Eastpoint Muni Code, and I'm going to do that in just a second. Then the Office of Communications that has our Public Information Officer, Communications Coordinator, and Eastpoint TV Station Manager. These are all of the Eastpoint information portals. So we have a Facebook page, a Twitter page, and an Instagram page, which all are at City of Eastpoint. We also have the Access Eastpoint app that you see in the right-hand column, the second icon. That can be downloaded through Google Play or the Apple Store. Code Red, you can sign up through eastpointcity.org. That is our emergency communication platform. And the emergency calls that go out, that is a system that is used for that. So it is an opt-in. It is an opt-in system. And then we also have eastpointcity.org, of course, which is our website. We're going to go there in a minute. And then if you have Comcast, Channel 22 is our Eastpoint television station, EPTV. And so let me try to switch over now to our website. And here you'll see all of the information up top by government. This is where you'll see mayor and council, departments, apps and platforms and things of the like. Our budget is online. A lot of our information is online by department. And so if you go to the department, you'll be able to access those documents there. There is also on our website, I want to also take you to the option of being able to locate the actual city charter and code of ordinances online. I think it's important for people to have their own information. And so that is going to be at, you go to Google, and I'm actually going to walk you through it. Just indulge me, since we are virtual, I have this opportunity to share it with you so you can see how you do it. So you go here and you type in Eastpoint Muni Code. And when you do that, you're going to see mine is purple because I go here quite a bit. Eastpoint, Georgia Muni Code Library. If you click there, it's going to take you to this page, and this is the code of ordinances. So here's where you find our charter and our code of ordinances, and then zoning deals with just our zoning ordinances. So if you click browse right here, you'll notice that there's a search engine at the top, and literally if you type it in, it'll take you to different sections of the ordinances. Over here to the left, the first Division 1 is our Eastpoint Charter. So if you want to know the charter, kind of like the Bible or the foundational document of the city of Eastpoint, kind of like the Constitution of the United States, our charter is that constitution for the city of Eastpoint. And then Division 2, and that's broken down into different articles. And then Division 2 is all of our code of local government. So this is where you can find our local ordinances as it relates to any of the different departments or ordinances within the city. Again, if you just type up here in the search engine, you will be taken to different information based upon your search. So wanted to just pause a minute and take time to show that to you, because I think it's a great way to arm yourself and be able to get the information directly. I also want to, we'll get to that a little later. So I'll go back to this. The last thing is connecting. People want to know how to connect. So I created this effort in order to connect you to our efforts, right? So people would say, Mayor, let me know. I want to help out. Let me know what I can do. And so there's a brief VIP volunteering in the point survey to gather information about you and your interests. And if you take a moment to complete that at that survey link or calling our office, and you can complete it over the phone with My chief of staff, that number is 404-270-7091. And so volunteering in the point on our city website is located, and I'll just go there really quickly. It is located under government. And then if you click on government, it is going to show you information about the mayor and council. And right here, it says mayor's office, and then you'll see volunteering in the point. And so if you click there, it'll give you an overview again of what it is. But one of the things that also provides, and let me just scroll down, this is the different types of, so on the survey, there are a number of different types of interest that you can share. There's also an other column. And so if you're interested in providing administrative support, then you contact our office. Arts and entertainment, we've listed the organizations in the city that works with that. Eastpoint Main Street, Eastpoint Arts Collective. And so that is for each of the different topic areas that is listed on the survey. Youth and education, you'll notice all of the Joint Learning Committee is there, which is a committee created in 2015 at the city manager's level and the city manager's office to be able to provide information and collaborate with the local school leaders, the city department heads, nonprofits, for-profits, faith-based organizations, anyone that is interested in helping us bridge the gaps for our children and families and connecting the dots to the resources that they need to be successful. You'll see My Brothers and Sisters Keeper in the Point, which is an initiative where we launched Mentoring Monday. We were doing cooking demonstrations pre-COVID. And also we had have a working group for strategic planning. And then our Eastpoint Public Schools, and that is contact information for each of the schools, their address, and then the email address and phone number as well. What you'll also see here is a brief description of all of the City of Eastpoint's boards and commissions. And so for each board and commission, there's a description of what that board and commission does. For the majority of these, and if it's different, it'll show you in the text in the description, but most of these, the mayor and council members each appoint one person to these different boards and commissions unless it says otherwise. And so if people were saying, you know, I'm interested in getting involved, what are the different ways to get involved? This also provides you a list of all of the different boards or commissions in the city and the description as to what each of them does. And you'll notice here, you have the Eastpoint Business Industrial Development Authority, which is BIDA. And we'll talk about that a little later, but it develops and promotes trade, commerce, industry, and employment opportunities in the city of Eastpoint, and basically is a development tool that we have within our city to help developers who are interested in developing either be able to get bond financing or other I'll say encouragement or inducements to do business in the city of Eastpoint. There's also a downtown development authority, and that consists of 7 members. And the description is there, but another one, that focus is on the revitalization and redevelopment of the downtown development area. And then BIDA is more of our business industrial development authority. And so just wanted to point you to that information. Again, it's online under government. And then if you click on volunteering in the point, you'll see all of this information there. So safety is and will always be our first and top priority in the city. And I know there have been a number of different Zoom meetings around this topic. There's also been, of course, discussion at the neighborhood association meetings, as well as we have had an update for the last at least 2 months at council around our efforts around policing in the city. And so just wanted to include this because safety, if people don't feel safe, nothing else matters. And I want to assure you that this is our top priority. We've invested quite substantially in our public safety, fire and police departments, and wanted to just share some highlights of that with you. Replaced aged police vehicles. All of our officers have body-worn cameras and tough books. replaced and repaired critical infrastructure needs within the law enforcement department. In order to be competitive, we provided, since being in office, probably since 2014, the most increases to date in public safety or for public safety compensation than we've seen in a long time. That included a 4% raise and then an education incentive plan, a $1,500 two-year degree and $2,400 for a four-year degree, 6% public safety incentive, and a 1.5 to 3% annual COLA. Also increased and improved our technology, working with different apps to do citywide video surveillance system. Our police officers and firefighters as well are always in the community through different community outreach initiatives. And you'll notice recently there was posted information about Nextdoor, where you're able to allow footage of things that happen in your house, connecting that with the police department. Also, there's an opportunity through Ring, if you have a Ring camera, that's connected with the Nextdoor, but also the police deputy chief informed me at one point we were trying to get permission to tap into people's camera, but we had a low response rate on that. That is an opportunity that Zoom offers that allows us to greatly increase our video surveillance in the city through being able to tap into your Ring cameras, license plate readers, golf carts for downtown patrol and patrol bikes, working on spot shotters for gunshot detection, and also implementing advanced technology. And of course, there's been a lot of concerns around the street racing that has been happening in the city. Council adopted an ordinance, and there are some penalties within it. And so our police department is enforcing that ordinance, and hopefully that is going to help curb the streetcar racing that is happening in the city, and of course, continuing to fill our vacancies within the department. The police department strategic plan is grounded in the 21st century policing blueprint, which has 6 pillars. And so these 6 pillars are the framework and the foundation of our Eastpoint strategic plan that includes the initiatives that I just shared, and really the whole idea of community policing. When the George Floyd incident happened last year, former President Obama asked mayors across the country to look at our use of force policy and adopt the 8 that can't wait. So that means banning chokeholds and strangleholds, requiring de-escalation, exhausting all alternatives before shooting, warning before shooting, implementing a duty to intervene, and banning shooting at moving vehicles, having a use of force continuum and comprehensive reporting. Our police chief, Gardner, looked at the policy and immediately, and it happened years before, I think it was back in 2006, September 2016, where at least 6 of these had already been included, and then also added the additional 2. So those are things that we're doing to ensure that policing is more community oriented, and also to inspect what we expect, right? To make sure that we have policies in place that prevent or indicate our commitment to ensuring that the incidents of police misconduct or brutality are minimized and eliminated within our city. This is March, I believe it was the January work session. I included a discussion on our work session agenda regarding exploring community alternatives and diversion. And so we are having conversations, and we'll continue to have that in the future, about are there ways to divert minor incidents or those incidents that are not necessarily policing in nature, people experiencing homelessness or people experiencing mental health issues. Are there ways for us to work with partners and collaborate to connect them to the supports and services they need versus criminalizing those types of behaviors? And so just wanted to share with you that we are definitely looking into that. I had this question regarding poverty and what are we doing as it relates to pretty much, I felt like that question was about making sure that all East Pointers are considered and have the ability to live, thrive, work, play within our city. And so I think one of the key things, and I looked at our data recently, our rate of people experiencing poverty or households experiencing poverty in the city of East Point has gone down to 23%. At one point, it was 28%. But in order to help lift people who are experiencing poverty to be able to, lift out of that situation and be able to help, have more income and more resources to support their families, workforce development becomes critically important. And our commitment to that started with the Amazing Stories Foundation, which is a TV and film apprenticeship program. And through that, we have trained this past season, they call it a season or past training class. There are only 10 people in the class because of COVID, but there's 100% placement rate of those people after they've gone through the training. And so they're all now working in the industry. Upcoming, we have a partnership with Construction Ready, and those classes will be offered at our Eastpoint City Annex building at 3121 Norman Berry Drive. And so it's a free 20-day training program, hands-on. You get 8 recognized credentials and job placement assistance. And this organization also has a high placement rate. I believe it's over 95%. You can go to www.constructionready.org and get more information there. The classes start on April 12th, and the enrollment is ongoing right now. And these jobs, when you say job placement, these jobs are livable wage jobs. So I believe they're at least $15 an hour or higher. And so definitely an opportunity to connect, free training at our Eastpoint City Annex, which is also on the MARTA bus line. And so wanted to make sure we were alleviating any barriers or as many as we can as we try to make sure that we are supporting everyone within the city of Eastpoint. Also, Strive Atlanta is offering a job skills 7-week training program, another free program. The enrollment is going on right now. This is for logistics. And so you'll get job readiness training, personalized support from a career coach, different credentials in logistics, as well as financial counseling. This is the contact information. There's virtual info sessions on Thursdays at 10. So that means this Thursday at 10 a.m. You can just go to zoom.com and enter that Zoom meeting ID, and it will take you into that meeting. And so excited to partner with the Aerotropolis Atlanta Alliance, Strive ATL, and Atlanta Career Rise on this opportunity. And then this Thursday, there's an Aero ATL virtual career fair from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And you can register through that website link there. And so I'll make sure that this is already, should be on my Facebook page, but I'll make sure it's there, and then you can click the registration link. But that's coming up this Thursday, March 25th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then you might have recently heard about our Brownfield Workforce Development Grant that we were awarded by the Federal Environmental Protection Agency. We are extremely excited about this opportunity. I have received a question about how are we helping prepare people for jobs within, clean energy and environmentally conscious careers. And so this training development, workforce development grant will give us the opportunity to train Eastpoint residents ages 17 to 24 in different areas as it relates to environmental practices. The total class is 283 hours and includes soft skills training, leadership training and coaching, and also introduce young people to natural resource management careers. Also the fundamentals for implementing the best management practices on construction sites, land disturbance areas for compliance, soil erosion, sedimentation. So really getting into providing job skill development and workforce development opportunities for Eastpointers to get engaged and hopefully have careers in the environmental field, which definitely is the future of work, and definitely important work now. Our environmental sustainability and clean energy and all of those things that will help us deal with climate change and pollution and air quality and water quality within our city. This is an opportunity for us to connect our residents directly to the environmental field. Development, and I mentioned that Randy's here, and I'm going to turn it over to him shortly. I'll just briefly touch on permits issued, economic impact of development, equity and inclusion, and then go to Randy. And so this is a line graph of the permits since that's January 2017 to February 2021. You'll notice it kind of ebbs and flows. So these are the different permits pulled within the city for different types of, development within the city, or projects or renovations and things of that nature. You'll see that in the month of February, we were down to 95. It's been ebbing and flowing. And so as we continue to move through COVID, I believe we'll see another uptick in the continued permitting and requests to, develop within the city of Eastpoint. We have had, since 2017 to now, we're looking at major projects that have come to the city, or developments like Malibu Point, 4 Points by Sheraton Hotel, Porsche expansion, or Arden's Gardens expansion, of course, Eastpoint Ace Hardware, Home 2 Suites Hotel, which is soon to open over in the Virginia Avenue area. The Atlanta Community Food Bank came, Walmart expanded, Home Depot is also expanding into the city of Eastpoint. And when you look at those projects over the years, that's over $122 million in economic impact or investment within the city. And I'm sure most of you probably have heard that Microsoft has selected the city of Eastpoint as one of the cities for a data center. So that is going to be about a $400 million investment that we're working through right now. You've heard a lot about the work on equity and inclusion, and the work that we're doing with Partnership for Southern Equity, and the different equity town halls, and the equity summer learning sessions or listening sessions around equity. There's been a number of different engagements, Eastpoint Equity Leaders Academy. And so I just briefly want to touch on this before I transition it over to Randy. And so that work really looks at how we grow in a way that is people focused and thinks about all people within the city of Eastpoint, and also addresses some of the issues that are part of the foundation of the city. And so our equitable growth and inclusion plan, we should receive a draft by April 1st. The goal is to approve that by June, but there are 3 pillars within it: equitable industrial land use, inclusionary housing, and economic inclusion. So I received some questions around, environmental concerns and the industrial land uses or industrial businesses within the city of Eastpoint. So let me just say, on July 15th, 1912, the Eastpoint City Council unanimously adopted an ordinance that required all Black people in the city of Eastpoint to live in an area of 45 acres, which is now known as the East Washington area over by the John D. Milner Park, but required them to live in that area immediately adjacent to 3 fertilizer plants, 1 oil plant, and a chemical plant. And the smell was so bad, the nickname was Stink Town. And those types of environmental concerns, where you put residential immediately adjacent to industrial land uses, are things that we're still dealing with, because not only was it just there, and of course, the quality of housing was substandard at best. I mean, it was very shanty houses, very poor quality living conditions. The justification was that they wanted to make sure that people weren't late to work and that they could see them and all of these other things. But that type of industrialization actually spread throughout the city. And so then we have other residential areas that are also near industrial land uses within the city. And so last year, on February 13th, council implemented a moratorium on industrial businesses or industrial applications, as well as for business parks, to take a moment and pause and figure out how to be more equitable in our industrial land use. What is it that we can do? What types of uses should no longer be permitted as of right, should have to go through another process to require permission. And on December 29th of last year, we adopted about 8 different zoning ordinances that dealt with this equitable industrial land use. And so it removes certain uses of right from industrial 1, which is heavy industrial, and I2, light industrial zoning districts. So like manufacturing and different chemical type uses, those were withdrawn as a matter of right. It also put a distance requirement of at least a mile between any new businesses and homes for certain types of uses that are permitted, that are not and those uses aren't as harmful to the environment or the communities near them. And also created 2 new zoning districts: mixed use commercial industrial and a warehouse industrial zoning district to require community benefits, and things that, really looking at it more kind of like a frog, what is it called? Punts Market area, where you have kind of like these warehouse uses, but you have retail and entertainment and more quality of life type activities going on there, as well as some mixed use, so some commercial and residential together. And so we can't tell people who are already existing in the city based upon decisions that were made before we got here, or even just the zoning that allows them to own the property, that they must go immediately and shut everyone down. It doesn't really work like that. But it does mean that if these businesses close and are non-conforming uses and have to reapply, they now are under our new ordinances. We also put within those amended ordinances a requirement that the businesses provide to us their plan that is required by EPA. So it says upon request, you could get the spillage plan. We put in the ordinance a standing request so that those plans will be provided to our water and sewer director, provided to the city as required by EPD and EPA. And we already have a right of inspection. And we have strengthened our relationship and collaboration and partnership with the state Environmental Protection Department, as well as working to increase that with the Federal Environmental Protection Agency through our workforce development grant. We also received a $300,000 Brownfield grant to start cleaning up some of the Brownfield locations in the city of Eastpoint. And the ones that we are working on getting the phase 2 environmental assessment on are the Commons project. So the downtown, just under 9 acres across the street from City Hall, that the city of Eastpoint owns and will develop and put a mixed use development there, as well as Atlanta Utility Works. Inclusionary housing really deals with how do we ensure that we have housing in the city of Eastpoint that every Eastpointer can afford, regardless of income. And so, having mixed income developments, developments that address, more than one or the extremes of incomes, but mixed incomes. And not every development will, serve all income levels, and we're okay with that. But we have to ensure that if there are community or incentives provided by the city, that there is some community benefit, and that we are planning in a way that ensures housing is affordable for everyone, regardless of income level in the city. And then economic inclusion kind of gets to, the community benefits agreements and those incentives that ensure that Eastpointers are included with development, and that developers are not only building buildings, but they're also building community. And I can assure you that there are developers out there. We'll hear from one in just a second. But I've met with over a dozen developers who are interested in developing in a way that I call them responsible developers. They're not only interested in building buildings, but also building community, and actually have the capacity to do that. A part of the development, again, I mentioned, are the different authorities, development authorities within the city. So these are different tools that the city has to be able to offer financing support or different support to development or projects that come to the city. These authorities are independent of the city council. They're appointed, the Downtown Development Authority members and the Business Industrial Development Authority members are appointed by mayor and council, and the commissioners for the Eastpoint Housing Authority are appointed by the mayor. And so the Eastpoint Housing Authority, their most recent project is Hillcrest over off of 166 in Stanton, in that Stanton-Delow area. And we also, they also are working and looking to redevelop or have a development project at the old NAMS house. So that's downtown. It's like a tall beige building right there on Conley, like at Conley and Main Street. You turn and on left, and it's kind of right on the left-hand side. And so the Eastpoint Housing Authority, I am excited about the commissioners we have. They are have been very progressive and thinking about ways to do development within the city. Through that, they also have a nonprofit that they are looking to, help as it relates to dealing with some of our blighted properties in the city and creating opportunities, again, for first-time homeowners. And so when we talk about equitable development, equitable revitalization, I promise you and assure you that it can happen. And it's not just focusing on, well, whether or not affordable housing, as it's called, is a part of the development. It includes so much more. And so I am excited to introduce and turn it over to Randy Beavers with Culture Labs to share with us more information about the Eastpoint Exchange, which again is will be a 21-acre development behind the MARTA station in downtown Eastpoint. And not only will this have residential and commercial office space, but arts and entertainment will be included, health and wellness, and really just this holistic approach to developing a community. And so Randy, I included his email address here because he indicated that anyone can email him if they have questions. He will respond. And he'll talk about the community engagement that they've done and that they will continue to do moving forward. And so without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Randy, and he's going to share with us for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then we will get to your questions and further continue the conversation. So Randy, I'm going to stop my screen share right now, and I'm going to turn it over to you, and you should be able to share your screen as well.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am actually, oh, here we go. Let me get my screen up. Let me know when you can see my screen.
I can see it.
Perfect. How do we go to full screen here? There we go. Is that showing up in full screen?
Yes, it's showing up in full screen.
Perfect. Well, thank you again, Madam Mayor. I don't know that I could have summarized our ethos and kind of our approach to development any better. You know, at the end of the day, our team at Eastpoint Exchange really is committed to building much more than, you know, sticks and bricks and buildings. You know, none of those things, you know, are worth a shred of the, you know, the investment that are put into them if they're not full of people. And, you know, people having vibrant experiences, you know, safe experiences, and, you know, evolving experiences as the world and life changes. You know, the developments, the way we look at it is kind of what's the point. A large majority of our team, so I'm you know, part of the group, but we're ultimately a joint venture, and, you know, the majority and managing partners, Kairos Development, have been heavily invested in Eastpoint for over 15 years. College Park is the home of one of the managing partners, Mr. Jack Williams, and I think we're all really excited about the overall potential for this site. Not, you know, not just because it's an amazing opportunity from a development standpoint, but because there are so many things that it dovetails into at a really incredible time, I think, in the world, you know, as well as the city of East Point's evolution. So we really consider ourselves, you know, part of downtown, you know, as far as the commercial assets that are located on our site. We're on the east side of the pedestrian bridge that, you know, connects us to downtown. And some of these historic buildings were the first structures ever built in East Point. A lot of them drove, you know, housing development early on in East Point's history. And, you know, to have an opportunity to be part of what the city is doing, you know, as far as economic development, workforce development, and the myriad of things that the city is looking to accomplish in and around downtown is really an honor. And we're really excited about, you know, the future potential that we have to, you know, help elevate and create and plug into. And at the end of the day, that's really how we view ourselves as part of a larger whole and as part of a community that we've been part of for, going on 20 years. So we really view it as our role to be extremely responsible, careful, thoughtful with the development. And so that's really our ethos. Eastpoint Exchange is, similar to any large scale project. It's going to evolve over time. Our theory now is, to start with some of the basics, make sure that we get those right. And then as, time passes and we learn, we'll have an opportunity to decide what subsequent phases of the development, can and will be. But central to our project is, the notion of community. As I've mentioned, we've been, I would consider it in kind of phase one of our community engagement, much of which has been centered around some of the institutions, really getting an understanding from, city representatives, city staff, institutional leaders around the city, some of our neighborhood leadership, in the neighborhoods that surround us, just what are sort of the big issues and opportunities and, fears and hopes that we need to be mindful of as we formulate what this concept, can and will be. But as we go on, part of the lifeblood of this development is going to be continued and ongoing community engagement. So, into 2021, we'll definitely be relaunching a community engagement effort. Opportunities like this are certainly part of that, but by no means limited to that. And we really believe that, as we develop a lot of the public infrastructure on the site, for people, that live in and around Eastpoint to use on a daily basis, as we create those things, we also need to be part of how cool things happen in and around those spaces. And, the things that happen in and around those spaces really ought to be driven by the perspectives that we're, hearing and receiving through community engagement. So, our process right now is what I would call kind of conceptual design. We're trying to figure out the ins and outs and the inner workings of some of the different aspects of the development, but which I'll get into. But as a whole, we really look at this entire site as, we're calling it a crossroads for connections. We want it to be focused on public life. Yes, there will be places, to rent for businesses, places to rent, for residents. But at the end of the day, there's going to be a major opportunity for public life to happen here. And we understand, at the end of the day, Eastpoint has been here longer than the city of Atlanta, which is, hard for a lot of people to fathom Atlanta, not being what it is now. But a long time ago, Eastpoint was, it was one of the largest communities in what's now Metro Atlanta. And it was one of the, original kind of melting pots in this area. And some of the folks that developed businesses in the area were really forward thinking in terms of being transit oriented and providing all of the necessary components of public life and affordable living in one place for their employees. And this is predating, the redlining, that Mayor Ingram referred to earlier. This was, way back in, the late 1800s, early 1900s. And we continue to envision that being, an amazing opportunity for downtown Eastpoint, our site included, just to be a connectivity point for anyone who wants to be part of this community, its history, its walkability, the businesses and the activities that are ongoing now and the things that we intend to add to as we move forward. We talk about our project being purpose oriented. We want to go a lot further than just opening our doors for the first person who wants to come in and rent the space. We understand how walkable and connected we are to downtown, to the neighborhoods surrounding, to the walkable infrastructure in terms of the model mile, the path, as well as the pedestrian bridge. And so we really want to think strategically about, again, public spaces where public life can happen. Art installations and things that people can get excited about, even if they're just on their way to the train to or from work. We want to make it an interesting place where people really feel good about spending time. We want convenience items, food and beverage, as Mayor Ingram mentioned, and we'll get into in a bit, wellness options. We want this to really be a hub for people to come and spend time and feel good about spending time here, no matter what their need is, depending on the time of the day, the time of year, whether they're feeling good or they're feeling sick. This is a place to come and feel good. The health and wellness piece is really big. And again, this will make more sense as I get into the site plan, but this is a really, really huge tenet for us beyond, the community component is creating a place where you can come to feel good. And we don't just mean like an urgent care clinic. Wellness is a really, really big word, and it's diet, it's exercise, it's community, it's opportunities to plug in and learn from other folks, whether that's skill sharing or educational opportunities, and whether those are provided by an institution or provided by community organizations that just simply host things on our site. Wellness is really important to us. Food is a big part of that. Food accessibility is a big part of that. And we're really doing our best to partner with the city, and again, help elevate projects like the city's pilot program with Food Well Alliance, and figuring out how to, get around the city's, and really the Tri-Cities sort of moniker as a food desert. And if we can be a part of solutions like that, then we want to be. So health and wellness is big to us. It's a big umbrella, which gives us a lot of flexibility, but it also means that we really have to make a hard push to try and recruit as many, whether they're, again, tenants or programmatic things under that umbrella as we possibly can. So I think that's, probably an inch deep and a mile wide in terms of kind of who we are and our process, what we believe in, and what we're trying to commit to. I'm sure I left plenty out, but that's what the Q&A is for. I'm really encouraging everybody to ask away and help me fill in the gaps. But without, further ado, here's the pretty picture that I know everyone really gets excited about, because it helps to kind of crystallize all this. This is the site in its, in its full scale. And everything you see in like kind of that yellowish color is what we would consider, really like phase one of the project. Everything in red or that's not highlighted is really, potential for subsequent phases. So I'll walk through, the location, the site, and the phasing a bit, and then tell you again a little bit more related to the construction and design, engineering, and construction, where we stand and where we're headed. So this big yellow line that kind of moves through the site, from Norman Berry, the corner of Norman Berry and Martin, down East Forest, and then it heads south to the pedestrian bridge, and effectively connects the pedestrian bridge in downtown to the south end of the trail, all the way up to the north end at Norman Berry, where the current path, model mile terminates. So this multi-use path that's indicated by that yellow line is what we really consider to be kind of the backbone of our development. It's the connective tissue that ties all these sites together, but it's really much more than that. It's the connective tissue that ties our site to our neighbors to the north, as well as to the west, who could be accessed, by the path system. And it is the connective tissue that, helps us cross the bridge and really restore that original footprint of downtown that existed before the rail system came through. And we realize that connectivity, means that we have to consider a lot of, the responsibilities that come with it very carefully. So making sure that, if this becomes a primary thoroughfare, for pedestrians and bikers, whether they're commuters, whether they're just out for some exercise, or they're, coming to visit the area and want to just get out and explore, that we've got to think, alongside the city about safety, and about maintaining a really, really safe environment for, people of all ages. But we also really want to think about how we can make this experience as awesome and vibrant as we possibly can. So we imagine, a lot of interesting works of art, but we really imagine a lot of partnerships and programmatic efforts to develop the stuff that happens, in and around this. Whether that's, extending the footprint of, the farmers market, or developing, something similar to that, or hosting classes, hosting different arts and culture and musical events, all of the really kind of obvious stuff. But as we hear from the community, the sky is really the limit. And we want to make sure that the city and the community are helping us define what programmatic and partnership efforts are valuable. And we will definitely do our best to, again, develop and recruit things that fit within those, kind of value sets that we hear from the community, to make sure that those are also at the forefront of the programming that happens in and around the trail itself. So in addition to that, you can see that there are a few sites and buildings that are shaded in yellow. On the right-hand side of the screen, which is the north end of the site, that's Jefferson Station. It's a historic building that sits at the corner of Norman Berry and Martin. A little bit further to the south, you see the lawn and the couch. Then you can see a little bit further to the south, a site that says 120 units of new multifamily. And then a little bit further to the south, you see the Buggy Works building. So as of now, Buggy Works and Jefferson Station are two historic assets that are in phase one, are undergoing, like interior renovations, so just making sure that the bathrooms and the carpet and the wall coverings and the common areas, the landscaping and things like that are continued to be maintained well. These are gorgeous historic assets, and they'll remain gorgeous historic commercial assets. We're just going to put, as we have over the years, a new round of reinvestment into those to make sure that they stay that way. We take a huge pride of ownership in two of the oldest buildings in the city of Eastpoint. We want those to continue to be landmarks and sources of pride. The other areas, the couch, I'll start there, the couch and the lawn, we really are envisioning an interesting kind of public multi-use or flexible use area here. We've got a 15,000 square foot metal building that's just super cool and has an awesome industrial vibe to it, with two little green yard-like spaces on either end of it. And we want that to be a hub of activity, one of the hubs of activity along the trail, whether that's public gatherings or private events, city-sponsored events, third-party sponsored events that we sponsor, you name it. We hope that it happens here, and we're open to figure out how to help it come to life. And then the last site, the multifamily site, we're contemplating 120 or around 120 new apartment buildings here on RN Martin, which would sit right across from the current townhome, the two current townhome developments across the street on Martin. And all of that we're working through in phase one. And then the last thing I'll touch on is this, the big red square shaped site next to Jefferson Station. That is our wellness campus. It's highlighted in red, but depending on how quickly we're able to, find and partner with, a group to kind of anchor this wellness concept, it could easily be developed in phase one. It's certainly, that part of it, finding the group that can be kind of our wellness anchor is at the forefront of our current activities. So, while we're not planning buildings there right now, so it's not technically part of phase one, the only reason we're not is because we want that partner to be part of that design process. We are currently, envisioning that this is a multifaceted 5-acre site, and it may or may not include housing. Right now, we're thinking it probably won't. We are trying to recruit, something like a YMCA, if not the YMCA itself, to develop, again, a multifaceted, wellness campus. Whether that's one big building or a small village of smaller buildings. Again, we don't want to venture into design until we have a partner that can give us input, because their thoughts will matter tremendously if they're going to be a key part of this. But we would love to see after school programs, art and culture programs, exercise, team sports programs, dietary consultants. Post-COVID, we're all going to need somebody to talk to once we can get out and in person. So if there are groups who want to offer different, counseling service or other therapies, you name it, if it makes you feel better, we'd love to see it take root here on this site. And I think, as far as the development plans go, that's kind of where we stand as far as our thinking on timing and phasing. We are actively starting to create sort of the preliminary concepts for the multifamily units, really just exploring some of the fundamental design guidelines. Nothing's being set in stone by any means. At this point, we're just trying to figure out, based on zoning, based on setbacks, based on the constraints involved with our site in terms of topography, things like that, what's going to work, how much can we build, what does it need to look like, how does it need to feel, and how does it interact with the surrounding, neighborhood and uses and neighbors. So, I think as we get a little bit further down the road on that, there will definitely be a multitude of opportunities to offer input. We have been connecting, as I mentioned earlier, with neighborhood leadership, with the city, with city staff, elected officials, just to get that preliminary input that has helped guide us to this point. But as we get further down, before we set anything in stone, we will definitely want the community's feedback. And so when I say conceptual design, and to give you an idea of some of the things that we're kind of contemplating, we don't want it to be typical, sort of cookie cutter, buildings and architecture. We want it to be innovative, but we want it to also be really tasteful in terms of the context of the historic buildings that are already there, the character of the buildings that have, been developed in the neighborhood, that have existed in the neighborhood for generations. So we want to, at the end of the day, we want to just take the time up front to make sure that we don't just do the same old copy and paste developments that you see all over the country, that we do something that is going to be a source of pride architecturally, for this community for generations to come. You see it in craftsman architecture all the time, and so many houses in Eastpoint have and have kind of modeled, that era of construction that's timeless. We want these buildings in, 100 years from now for people to go, man, those designers and those developers, in that community really did something that was, still interesting. So we're looking at more of a cluster layout with a textured roof line. But that's really what's driving the thinking. So these are by no means renderings or plans. These are just pictures of things that we're trying to draw some inspiration from. At the end of the day, the common theme here is that they're just a little bit more interesting to look at than a big old rectangle or a big old square. There's texture. They all have, outdoor spaces, almost a feel of motion as you walk past, because the lines of the buildings move, and, it doesn't feel like a canyon as you're walking past it. the roofs move, but the buildings are also offset and they move in and out. The glass and the light, the access to the outdoors. And at the end of the day, they just offer a little bit more, something visually interesting, but also they create or add to that sense of vibrancy that we're trying to create. So this is just a really, really high level, sort of illustration of, what we've been kind of working with and exploring. Another, potential iteration, of what they could look like. Again, just kind of more of the same, but, you'll see that what these really try and offer is a sense of vibrancy at the street level. Folks can be outside interacting with the folks that are walking by, and create more of a neighborhood, vibrant neighborhood feel along R.N. Martin than what's currently there, which is, just more commercial, industrial, and kind of parking lots that you interact with. There's an opportunity to develop landscaping and, some walkability, and things that, could really turn R.N. Martin into a more interactive place than it currently is today. And then, you see on the right-hand side, the interior facing portions of the buildings, we want to really try and replicate the same feel, a corridor where people can walk or walk their dogs, get in and out, and where neighbors can kind of interact, kind of across this walking aisle from one another if they want to. I'm going to stop there. I'm not sure if I've hit my 15-minute limit, but I know that's a lot to digest. Again, kind of an inch deep and a mile wide, but would love to get, some questions, and am happy to kind of dive into or retrace any part of that overview. And I'm excited, to be part of this meeting and to be able to have the opportunity to do so.
Well, thank you so much, Randy, for, bringing and sharing this overview of this project, which again, I think will be a model project for equitable revitalization and redevelopment. We do have one question. What are the prices of these and how much is it to own one?
These will be for rent. So they'll be true apartments, not condos. And we have not determined final pricing yet. That's to arrive at that number, we really have to get first an understanding of the design, to make sure that the design is in line with, again, something that, the city is behind, the community is behind, and that, is financially feasible to build. And then from there, we get an idea of the cost of construction, and that ultimately is what drives the pricing. At the end of the day, we certainly have to make a return on that overall investment. But our goal, I can say, very high level, our goal is to create a development that does allow us to make this as affordable as we can. So when we look at, I'll go back to this picture. When we look at, these pitched roofs and our idea versus the flat roofs, it looks cool, but it's also a way for us to keep our construction costs down, because we're able to implement, more of a traditional like shingled roof or some sort of like combination of, asphalt shingled roof and metal roof. So that's an affordability measure as well as a design measure. It's really two birds with one seed. And we made the decision to not build or not try to build an elevator service building. These are, more walk-up style, stairway serviced. And so not having to build those elevator shafts and install all that extra mechanical and electrical is another way that we're able to really keep the cost down. So at the end of the day, I could say we're definitely making sure that we're trying to bring these in on a budget, that makes them as affordable as they can be. But stay tuned. As soon as we want to be marketing these as soon as we get to that point. But again, we have not come up with a final design, and we really won't get into construction pricing or final construction pricing, and then our actual rent structure until we get through the design and community engagement that we've been talking about.
So there's a question about what is the estimated start date for this project?
Well, we have started. There's, as far as construction goes, it's a little bit of a moving target. We would hope sometime, late next year. But we are, the design, all the stuff that's behind the scenes, before you see dirt moving on a site. We are very, very actively working through that. We are investing real dollars. We have hired architects and engineers. So the work is currently well underway. It isn't the public facing piece of it, as far as like getting a bunch of big machines out there and moving stuff around. But rest assured, the work is happening. And we are pretty far down the road in terms of figuring out what the technical constraints of the site are in terms of, again, the topography, parking requirements, and all those things. So we hope to be, I would say within the next, 60 to 90 days, getting a better handle on the design direction, and wrapping that up, through the summer.
There's one question about what percentage would be designated affordable, understanding the Metro Atlanta affordable housing crisis. And I know that there is conversation about this being a mixed income site as it relates to housing and even maybe some workforce development housing. Can you share more about that at this time, Randy, or is that something you have to share later?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we can say, we are intending for our piece of this to be market. We've done market studies, pretty in-depth market studies that really say that there is like a market gap, for folks who are moving into Eastpoint who can't yet afford to buy, or maybe don't have the credit history because they just got out of school or otherwise, and they're looking to rent. And that's really who we're going to be going for, is the folks who are moving for the first time, whether it's getting out of here for a job and getting their roots planted in the city of Eastpoint. That we're one of the considerations is like their first home, so to speak, in Eastpoint. Further south on the site, there is a building that city is planning an affordable, a subsidized affordable development, and we are in talks with that group. They share the same vision that we do in terms of creating value for the community, the public infrastructure, and all of those things. And they are currently working through their own due diligence. But if they are successful, then ultimately we would, have a combined development program of true mixed income from a housing offering standpoint. They would develop about 100 units or so, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. It's really up to them. But we would take a partnership approach in terms of creating the public life, creating the public infrastructure, and thanks to the city really for helping to make sure that we are connected with that group, and that everybody, the city, ourselves, and that development group are all sort of on the same page in terms of common goals. But we didn't want to compete with their affordable housing project. They don't want to compete with our market rate housing project. And then together, if we're both successful, that's how we accomplish a true mixed use site, within the 21 acres.
There's a question, and I'll try to answer this around home ownership in the city of Eastpoint. And we already have somewhat of a deficit as it relates to that. We have more of our households are rental occupied versus homeowner occupied. And I can tell you, I rented, or me and my family rented in the city of Eastpoint for 5 years before we built a house. And so that we definitely want to increase our home ownership for those residents who want to actually own a home, or for people who want to move to the city and own a home. There will be a NACA, National, I just had to look it up, Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America home ownership fair of sorts on April 10th, I believe, on the um, courtyard area of City Hall. Councilman Butler is working on that. So there will be information for those who are looking to be first-time home owners. And we do have a lot of opportunities in the city that is right. First-time home buyers who want to put in some tender loving care and a little bit of work into it. Of course, that's an opportunity for the vacant properties that are in the city, or the blighted properties that are in the city. So we're seeing some purchases along those lines, as well as continuing to have a diverse housing stock in a number of areas in our city where their home ownership opportunities still exist. And so I agree with you. We'd like to see our home ownership percentage increase, but right now there are a lot of people who actually don't want to own a home, or were like us, transitioning into this new area. We relocated here, didn't really know where we wanted to own or build or buy, and again rented for 5 years. We rented a townhome over. It used to be called Creekside, with Crestridge, and then we rented a home over in Grand Estates, and now we own a home in Lakeside Preserve. And so, I do believe that ensuring that we have a comprehensive housing stock within the city, or a full continuum of housing that actually takes people from experiencing homelessness to, attainable housing or owning their home, that there is still absolutely always going to be a place for rental units, and high quality rental units. And so that leads to the next question. And this is for you, Randy. What consideration has gone into the types of materials that will be used to construct these buildings as it relates to sustainability and health implications for residents, as well as accessibility for all people, including people with disability and the elderly?
It's a great question. From the materials side, we're just big fans of natural elements at the end of the day, right? So where we can use, I'll go to one of these images. You can see here, we're looking at some potentially like exterior wood siding. We've considered, I'll go all the way up here, to this little thing up at the top left corner, and you can see like the sheet metal that is in our branding. That's an inspiration from the fact that we're on the railroad, and there's an industrial kind of look and feel. There's rail cars. So we have an opportunity to really play off of a lot of that in terms of like the corrugated steel, the corrugated metal, and wood, and really trying to use a lot of those natural materials because they're timeless from a design standpoint, because they're just, they're from a sustainability standpoint, they're easy to maintain. And, rather than go crazy with a bunch of, funky elements, natural is kind of the way that we're planning to go with it. You can see there's a lot of glass here. I mean, that's natural light's a really big element. We want people to have access to that. It just breeds healthier living, happier people. But, as far as like getting into the specific construction materials, we have engaged a sustainability consultant. So, his career has been spent as a project manager, construction manager, working on green buildings and sustainable approaches to development. So sustainability is certainly at the core of our belief system, but we haven't gotten far enough down the road with, the final design to start selecting the final materials. But it is definitely a constant consideration. You know, you can have a little bit of a lens into how we're thinking about materials from a design standpoint. But as far as construction goes, we'll definitely have sustainability at the forefront of our minds. You know, that consultant has been part of our team. You know, all of a sudden, although it's not his it's not his turn at bat because we're not there yet. You know, we selected and have been meeting with that individual, that company for, you know, going on a year and a half now. And it sounds like we're probably going to be edging towards what they would call an earthcraft or some sort of similar certification for sustainability. So, you know, we want to try and aim for some sort of accountability measure with that as well. And then as far as accessibility goes, you know, there are accountability measures there that we'll definitely adhere to.
I know there was a question on Facebook around what about Tri-Cities High School, and I'm gonna make some assumptions about that question and just say that as Randy mentioned earlier, that this development will definitely infuse arts and entertainment, and with Tri-Cities High School being an arts and entertainment magnet, I think there's definitely opportunities for synergy. The desire to connect the path to this site will also help with, you know, the Tri-Cities High School students walking to and from through this area at a level of safety around that. If you want to provide a little more specificity, if I didn't address that, but know that right now what is being shared is the design concept and kind of like the overall high level 50,000 square foot plan. But what I wanted to make sure is that people were, one, aware that this development is underway, and two, that the developer, which is Kairos, really has committed on their own to developing in this way. I participated in the master planning initially for this site, and there was a different concept and design, and the developer decided to, and we were supportive again of the development, and the developer pivoted and, you know, decided to change that from that master plan to this concept plan and engage cultural labs, and, you know, to really engage the community and really look at, you know, a holistic approach to this. There's also conversations around having a market be on this site, a food market like a Market 166, and the desire that they have to have a co-op. There's also the Carver market over in Atlanta, but the having a developer that wants to start and lead with health and wellness and food access and kind of help address those challenges, to me, really speaks to a willingness, again, to build the community that is around this development that will also be able to benefit from what happens on this site. So I definitely want to publicly thank Jack Williams of Kairos for, you know, really deciding on his own, even to the point that they, you know, decided to reach out and start having conversations with the YMCA about potentially being a part of this site or having a facility like that. And so health and wellness, arts and entertainment, mixed use with residential and commercial, this site, this development and this project really offers, I think, what, you know, one envisions around equity and, you know, connecting to the Eastpoint path around, you know, our transit-oriented development plans of having more walkable city. And so I am definitely excited that we're to be on this journey with Kairos and the Culture Labs, and really being able to stand up something that is right behind a MARTA station. And so, you know, that level of accessibility to transportation is huge and definitely a great driver for this development. So I'm trying to see, I don't see any other, oh, wait, there might be two other questions.
Fire away.
Yep, so is this happening no matter what? So the developer actually owns these acres of land and will be moving forward with the development. There are some things that will have to go through the planning and zoning process. And so those decisions will be made as it goes through the process. But, and I don't want to speak for the developer, but there's definitely a commitment to develop this site in what I believe is an equitable way that includes residential, commercial, arts and entertainment, health and wellness, walkability, just a really vibrant space within our downtown area.
Yeah, I mean, this site has been owned by Kairos, the managing partner of the development, for for 15 years. So while it's a new development, the ownership is the same. It's just these things take time. As you can see, there are a lot of parts and pieces to this site. It's just, it's taken time to get to this point. And we do feel like it's an inevitability. We don't have to go buy the land. At this point, it's just a matter of getting the design right. And yes, then getting the pieces that will ultimately need, everything we're doing is going to require permits, right? So at the very, very least, there will be a permitting process, which, we will be continuing to work hand in hand with the city to go through that. Our goal is to try and, before we get to that point, address all of the opportunities that we can on the front end. We don't want to be asking questions of the public at the 11th hour and surprising people. We want to get a firm understanding of how the world feels about this place and what it can be, what it should be, what it shouldn't be, before we dive into those, formal processes. No one's asking us to engage with the community. No one's asking us to, reach out and have conversations on our own accord. Those are things that really are just part of our DNA. It's how we feel like development should happen. Because we know that what we build will impact future generations. When we're dead and gone, someone's going to inherit, the positives and the negatives. We know we're not going to get everything right, but we're going to communicate and walk through this process with the community, to the highest degree of our ability, to make sure that, the mistakes that we do make, are looked upon, by friends and fellow community members that can say, yeah, you're human, you're not perfect, but you definitely did everything you could. I think that's just what any neighbor would do. If your neighbor decides to paint his house green and, the color swatch looked really good, but when the thing got sprayed, it just came out a little bit different. You're not going to hate on your neighbor for that. You're going to say, hey, it's an eyesore, but hopefully you'll get around to repainting that thing in the next year or so. Or maybe if the relationship's strong enough, you say, let me get out there with my roll brush and help you redo it. That's the level of relationships that we ultimately want. Now, we can't very well go tear something down and rebuild it just because we didn't get it right. So there's a much higher degree of care and design that we've got to adhere to. But that's exactly why we're doing it the way that we're doing it. This is about relationships. This is about community. Yes, we're a private development company and we intend to make a return on our investments. But, there's, I think, a way to do that also creates a lot of value for the people who are here and now and part of this community day one. We're not trying to create value for some audience of folks who aren't here yet, and we're hoping they'll come to Eastpoint one day. We're trying to build this for the folks that are here and now, as much as we're, trying to build things that keep people interested in Eastpoint and draw new interest in business to the city. I think on that note, a couple of things I did want to touch on. We have reached out to Tri-Cities High School. It was at the changing of the guard. They got a new principal the end of last year. And so that was in flux. So I ended up connecting with the, really athletic director who's been there for a long time. And we do intend to re-engage with the new principal. We just wanted to give give them some time to get settled in and, into that new position before we bothered them with a bunch of extracurricular stuff that frankly, we have plenty of time to get to as we go through this process. But we have reached out. We will continue to reach out there. We certainly, whatever we develop, we'll have them in mind in terms of after school programming or anything else that they deem valuable. And then as far as the, kind of going back to the question of condos versus apartments, as well as how do we have the greatest amount of impact now, we did think about condos, townhomes, and that sort of thing, but we really feel like this scale of apartment development allows us to invest in more of this public infrastructure and programmatic stuff up front than or for sale and or less dense concept would. It also, apartment dwellers spend more money outside of their homes than homeowners do, which I thought was kind of a counterintuitive thing, but that's the case. And we really feel like this level, not a super dense, but sort of a mid-level, mid-density apartment concept is also going to potentially have the greatest impact on, downtown and those businesses that are walkable to here. So just a couple of things that I didn't touch on, but I think are directly related and kind of help tie in to the, that last question.
Well, thank you so much for that, Randy. I do want to share that this presentation was made to council on November 9th of last year, November 9th, 2020. And so this is information that has been shared not only with council, but Randy mentioned the initial community engagement that has happened, as well as there will be ongoing community engagement, especially with Sterling Villages and the neighborhood around this development, Tri-Cities High School, all the stakeholders. And so I appreciate, again, the developer for, initiating those conversations and really, being authentic in their commitment to include the community and take that into consideration as it moves forward. There's a question about, how will we what commitment is the city making for ongoing maintenance for this and any other site when we currently seem to having a difficult time with general maintenance and cleanliness around our city right now? And so I hear you. I understand that concern. There's definitely a lot of opportunity and room for doing more around code enforcement. You will definitely, there's an opportunity, and I know that I think it's Brandon Thaxton and other neighbors or residents in the community who are doing like pop-up cleanups. There was a pop-up cleanup last weekend, this past weekend on the 20th, I believe at one of the parks. I think it was Sykes or Sumner Park. I was at a 2-day softball tournament with my daughter, being a softball mom. They played 4 games on Saturday and 5 on Sunday. So I wasn't able to make it, but I do appreciate all of the residents who, and over the years, there have been a number of different even associations, neighborhood associations, and just others who have indicated a willingness to help us and work with us to keep our city clean. We do have a public works department, and we clean, the city on an ongoing basis in different areas like our right-of-ways and streets and sidewalks and things of that nature. As it relates to cracks in the sidewalks and the street, the T-SPLOST program, Transportation Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax, that 0.75 cents of a penny has gone a long way in helping us, do the most repairs of our roadways and installation of sidewalks and just things of that nature. And that is not from our general fund or property tax dollars, but that comes from anyone who spends money in Fulton County. And then we get our share, which is around $7 million a year over a 5-year period. So that helps us quite a bit with that. But it is definitely an opportunity to do more. There's a Clean City initiative where staff, public works, sanitation, police, code enforcement, fire, like other cross section or multi department initiative around definitely doing more and being more intentional around making sure our city is clean, especially our gateways, and like the on and off ramp onto from 166 into downtown. And so there are efforts that have been taking place. COVID, well, our public, all of our staff has still been working. And so while there have been some things that we've had to do for COVID precautions, there's still the work being done. But I agree that there's definitely an opportunity for us to do more. And, you know, it's kind of like the broken windows theory of criminology. If people see a lot of broken windows and trash, they'll think that people don't care. And what I know is that we have an amazing city with some amazing residents who really, really care about our city as much as we do, and working together, I know that we will be able to do it. I always say teamwork makes the dream work. And, you know, I firmly believe that. And the more we do together, the further we'll go along. And so one of the things, and I think this kind of segues into what I'll close out on, I don't see any other questions, is kind of around how the city operates. And so we have a council manager form of government, which means mayor and the council members hire a city manager, and the city manager is responsible for the day-to-day operations of the city. And our city charter, I think, is actually section 2-401. And I showed you earlier how to access the charter online by Google, putting in the Google search Eastpoint Muni Code, clicking that top line, the top search that comes up, and then go into the code of ordinances, and you can just type roles of mayor and council, or is in the charter, I believe it's in section 4. But around, you know, those roles and how that works. The mayor is the chief spokesperson of the city, but mayor and council members are prohibited from getting into the day-to-day operations of the city. And those decisions are within the city manager's authority. And then mayor and council supervise the city manager. And so I've heard a number of the concerns. I can assure you that during this pandemic, while we've continued to operate the government and continue to provide the level of service, it has not been without challenge. It has not been without needing to take COVID precautions. And I hear the concerns about customer care and, you know, being open every day of the week. But again, that is a management decision, and those concerns have been shared. And I've been assured when it is safe to do so, that it will be open again every day of the week. We just recently had a situation where we had to close for a couple of days for COVID precautions as well. And so while we are getting through it, and, you know, more and more people are getting vaccinated, we still are getting through it. We aren't through it as of yet, and it's still having an impact on operations. And we have hired the city manager and have to allow him to make those decisions as to how the operations of government will go. So again, I think it's 2-401 roles of council and city manager, or the roles are delineated there. But if, you know, you are at home one night and you're finding it hard to go to sleep and you want to just read something, go online and take a look at it and read the charter or our ordinances. But I wanted to make sure that you have the ability and you know how to access the information for yourself. And so I don't see any other questions at this time in the QA or the chat, and I haven't received any other from Facebook, but I want to say thank you. Thank you to everyone for making time to join us this evening. Thank you for being a part of this community conversation. It was live streamed on Facebook and YouTube, and so it will still be there. If you want to go back and look at any of the information that we've shared as it relates to the opportunities that are coming up or anything that was shared this evening, I will go back to the slide so that you can see, again, Randy's email address, randy@theculturallabs.com. If you want to, if you have any questions or want to learn more about the Eastpoint Exchange development behind the MARTA station, and The last is the thank you with my email address. Oops, that should be, I need to, I had the wrong phone number on there. That is not my number. It is 7091, not 2091. So let me make that quick change before I post that. How did I mess up my own number?
While you do that, Mayor Ingram, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to, to speak and to shed some light on what we're doing, but really more importantly, for your insights. It's rare to find leadership in a city that is as helpful and as insightful as you and your colleagues have been, but also, at the same time holding us accountable. And so, yeah, this is a great opportunity, and we're excited to be working with you and the city and in the city.
Well, again, thank you, Randy, and thank you, Jack, Kairos. I pronounced it wrong, Kairos Development, but for really sharing what I believe will help people realize that there are developers who want to develop in an equitable way, in a way that definitely benefits the community around it, but also, attracts a mixed demographic of people to the development, and is intentional about doing that, as well as incorporating those quality of life things like connecting to our Eastpoint path, making it more walkable, extending our downtown, having arts and entertainment and health and wellness as a focal point and priority for the development. So thank you. Thank you to each of you again for joining us. And again, this was live streamed, so will be available on my Mayor Dina Holiday Ingram Facebook page, as well as on YouTube at youtube.com/c-d/d youtube.com/c/Dina Holiday Ingram. It is also listed on the flyer for this event, but you can go visit that later, and the videos will be there as well. So thank you, everyone. I always say there's no point like Eastpoint, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I believe that our city is a model and will continue to be a model for all things equitable, just, inclusive, and really how we grow and have a vibrant, thriving community that doesn't forget about our legacy residents and legacy businesses, but allows us all to grow and benefit from the development that is happening here as we attract new residents to the city and new businesses and new opportunities as well. And, I don't believe that gentrification is synonymous with revitalization. I think you can definitely revitalize and redevelop or develop your city by infusing equity in all that we do. And so that is the commitment. Know that this is a people-focused journey. This is about prioritizing our people and making sure that the people of Eastpoint are considered all people, all income levels, all demographics, every East Pointer has an opportunity to grow and thrive in our city. And so that's why we continue to bring opportunities here, like workforce development opportunities, like, bringing different developments here that will enhance the quality of life of our residents, and trying to increase our arts and entertainment and retail options in the heart of our downtown of the city of Eastpoint. So know that that is our commitment. That is my commitment, is a people-focused commitment. It is leading with people in mind, putting people over profit, politics, and party, and even personality. Is really about what is in the best interest of the people of Eastpoint and our government. And so I thank you for allowing me to serve you. I thank you for this opportunity of joining us tonight for this community conversation. I hope you feel like you, for those who attended, that it wasn't a one-way, it was a two-way exchange, and we answered the questions that you had. And again, feel free to email me at mayor@eastpointcity.org or call 404-270-7091. Be well, stay well, healthy, and safe. Remember to continue to follow the 3 W's. Wash your hands often for at least 20 seconds. Wear a mask whenever you're outside your home, and wait at least 6 feet away from people who are outside of your home or who don't live within your home. And I hear the CDC may have changed that requirement, but again, just continue to do all that you can to be safe for you and your family, but also for the community. And we will continue to be with you every step of the way. Vaccinations are being offered at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. They have thousands of available appointments. I've shared information about that. Vaccinations are also happening at GICC, Georgia International Convention Center, right in College Park, and at the Delta Air Museum in Hateville, as well as I think Jackson Memorial Church has the Johnson & Johnson vaccination. Impact Church is working to also get some vaccinations in the city through 100 Black Men reached out to me and we connected them with Impact Church. And I think Impact Church is also working with the county. So we're hopeful that we'll be able to get more vaccinations within the city of Eastpoint for Eastpoint residents, but they're continuing to expand the locations. Kroger, Walmart, Walgreens, not Walmart, Kroger, Walgreens, Publix. There's a number of different locations. And you can go to, I think it's myvaccinegeorgia.org. I might have messed that up. But there is an online website that coordinates the scheduling for all of those locations. So thank you. Stay well, stay healthy, stay safe. There's no point like Eastpoint. Have a great evening.